All right. Welcome to this week's Traveling on Everyday Spend Points and Miles report. I've been having some issues with the sound, so I'm curious if it is working. If John, who has been kind enough to pop in, is around, and let me know if I'm good to go with the sound. Just want to make sure on this. If you're hearing me, let me know. And is anyone hearing me? All right. We don't have anybody here. Let's see. Can anyone hear me? I've been having some technical issues. And all right, thank you so much. I just want to make sure that part of the problem that ends up happening. So, welcome to this week's traveling on everyday spend. Um, got a lot to talk about. First, want to wish everybody a happy and safe Fourth for tomorrow. Stay safe, and want to thank each and every person that has been supporting the channel, watching these live streams, whether it's live or recorded, as well as the videos. Really appreciate your support. And if you're not subscribed, if you find any benefits to this live stream, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Really helps out, and can't thank you enough. But why don't we go ahead and just get started with the agenda for tonight. Um, so we've got a lot of new July information on credit card intro bonuses. We're going to talk about the transfer bonuses, some points and miles purchase opportunities to see if they work for you. We're going to talk about a couple of targeted offers that I came up with, that I saw that probably a lot of people will be able to take advantage of. And then a couple of Reddit topics. We're going to talk about one question of a person having $6,000 to throw at a $16,500 credit card debt. Obviously, not something that we want to be able to, what we want to be doing in points and miles, because obviously, if we're paying interest, we're losing at the game. But I thought it would be interesting to kind of look at what the options this person is looking at and get your input and thoughts on this. Then we're going to talk about Hyatt acquiring Me and All Hotels, mainly located in Germany. And then we're going to touch on, unfortunately, what might be the last Delta sweet spot with Virgin apparently may be gone. And then talking about staying in Dubai for free. And then, of course, we've got the July promo rewards to talk about with Air France and KLM, as well as the Lufthansa Miles and More July mileage bargains. And then the last item would be to touch on the travel person that was looking at travel or saving. And I thought it was interesting as far as that. So let's go and get started. And thank you to John and Xavier for taking the time to let me know about the sound. I really appreciate it. So let's get started. So the credit card offers. Not too much that has changed since we've talked about it from last week. We still got these Hilton Honors personal credit cards with the bonuses that go through July 31st. So you do have a lot of time left. If you're a person that is looking at Hilton, there is a card for each level of a person that is a loyalist to Hilton, all the way to if you're just starting out and just seeking some initial points to be able to look at. Then we've got the Marriott Business Bonvoy, which is nearing its end. And this was the best in card history with the 5 free nights, up to 50,000 points per night, with $8,000 spend in 6 months. Business cards, if you're not a person that has had them, don't be afraid of them. It becomes a nice alternative for some people to look at. And if that may be something that fits in the credit card journey, you may want to consider this credit card if you're not already a person that has business credit cards. And then, of course, the American Express Gold and the Platinum. I always recommend look at your incognito modes. We always see more points for American Express Gold and Platinum. And I put the numbers down there if you're interested. And then we've got the Delta Sky Miles on the credit cards that go through July 17th. Excellent offers to be able to get some miles from Delta. with not a huge spend. And one of the things I love about American Express is that you get 6 months to be able to make that spend, to make it easier on a lot of different people, because not everybody has that high ability to spend on credit cards. So something to look at, especially if you're interested in Delta. Then we still have the Freedom Flex, which I constantly will talk about. If you're interested, incognito or you're in private mode, definitely take a look at it. Always, it still is showing different options for groceries. So there will be something that will fit for what you're interested in if the Flex is something that you're looking at. Then we still are probably getting to the last days of the British Airways, Aer Lingus, Iberia credit cards that have points, and obviously those Avios points are very valuable. You can stretch them out even to Emirates to be able to transfer to, so something to look at for that. We just got the Southwest business credit cards last week after the personal credit cards ended at 85,000 points. And so now we have 120,000 points on the two business cards. If it's once again, if you're interested in business credit cards and that companion pass, it may be something that you can go ahead and look at, because that's enough points to be able to get you that companion pass. It's now just a matter of gaming when that offer is going to end and seeing if you could get the full 2 years out of it by completing the required spend and getting those points at the beginning of January. But we don't necessarily know for sure when it's going to end. There was talk, I think the points guy talked about September, which kind of then led into the possibility of doing a quick spend in the first 3 months to be able to get the full 2 years out of it. But even if you can't and you're interested in Companion Pass, it's still something to consider. And then, of course, we have the United cards for Chase, still available. We do, and once again, we don't necessarily know when that's going to end, but something to be able to look at, especially if you're into United. And then lastly, we still have the same credit cards with Citi, the Strata Premier and the Citi Advantage personal credit card, and then Barclays Advantage Aviator Red credit card, with just making one single purchase and paying the annual fee in the first 90 days will get you 70,000 American Advantage miles. So we don't see too many changes, but definitely something that we all still need to be aware of. And then as far as the July transfer bonuses, not too much going on. We still got Chase with Aeroplan with 20 to 30% if you have the card, in a minimum 50,000 point transfer up to 25,000 bonus points, July 31st. And then City with Cathay Pacific on July 20th. Disregard, I made a mistake as far as showing the Turkish reference there, but Cathay Pacific is an option. And then we have a lot of points and miles purchase opportunities here in July. So the first one that we've talked about before is the Hilton Honors point mile purchase. It runs through July 23rd. If you purchase 5,000 points or more, you receive 100% bonus. And that deal valuation is right in line at 0.5 cents per point as what a lot of people will evaluate those Hilton points to be. Transfer partners include Amex and Bilt. Two good things about this potential offer that for you to look at is, one, the valuation at 100% is really good. You could get some outstanding value with this, and especially with the small luxury hotel system now that is with Hilton, might be able to get some more mileage out of that as well. And we normally don't see 100% right off the top with such a low point purchase at 5,000 points. But once again, even as good as all of this is, I don't recommend speculating on this. Even as good as this is, so if you've got something that you know is coming up, then it might be a very good option to top off or to make that vacation even better if things work out. Then we have the IHG One Rewards card. One Rewards point purchase. Now that ends at 11:59 tonight. Purchase 11,000 points to receive 100% bonus. Now I say or 60% because what I've seen it advertised for on different sites is mentions 100%, but it's really up to 100%. When I look at my IHG account, the maximum for me is 60% bonus. And so zero point 0.5 cents per point or the zero point 0.7 cents per point for that. Once again, in certain situations, that's probably going to be an excellent opportunity, especially if you do qualify for that 100% for something to look at for IHG. But definitely take a look and see where you fall at to see if you might reach that 100% opportunity for that. And want to say hello to Lonnie. Appreciate you stopping through, sir. Always appreciate you taking some time. Then we've got the Marriott Bonvoy that ends on July 24th. 2,000 points to receive up to 40%, and then at 10,000 points to reach up to 50%. Now, for me, once again, I only topped out at 25%. And it's really, I saw 15% at the 2,000 point mark, and 25% was my cap on it. So once again, go into your Marriott account and see what you may qualify for, because you may get the full valuation. And if you do reach the 50%, then you're talking about 0.83 cents per point, which once again could be, in that case, a good option for potentially topping off a Marriott stay, and that could be something to look at. Transfer partners, because you want to see where you can be able to combine these points at, would include American Express, Bilt, and Chase. Then we've got Virgin Atlantic running through July 7th. And the point bonus looks like it runs from 20% threshold, a 40% threshold, 50 and 70%. Now at the 70% threshold, you're talking about 1.48 cents per point, which is competitive. But once again, not something to necessarily speculate on, but this could be a good option if you need to top off some points. But there are so many transfer partner options up for Virgin, from Amex to Bilt to Capital One, Chase, and Citi. So you may be able to pool points if you're diversified enough to not necessarily need to make a purchase of Virgin to top off. And then lastly, we've got Wyndham Rewards that is going to be going through August the 9th, in that you have a purchase opportunity of starting at 3,000 points to receive a 35% bonus. And the valuation is 0.96 cent per point. And that is pretty competitive with what a lot of people look at for Wyndham Rewards. More limited options for transfer partners between Capital One and Citi, but could be an option if you're looking at a Wyndham resort or using their points for Vacasa locations, which can be very good as well. And I see Lonnie saying, if I may add, please do not purchase points without a purpose. Hotel points can expire unless you have the hotel's credit card, which will keep them active. Yep, that's a very good point. Definitely not for speculative purchases, and as well, by having those credit cards, if you're not going to be using those points, I'd say within a year, then it's the credit card activity that's going to allow those points to stay open. So, nope, you make a very good point, Lonnie. Thank you for sharing on that. And so a couple of targeted offers that I noticed. American Hilton Business, Amex Hilton Business, you can earn up to 25,000 points, and the offer is an extra 10x per dollar through September 30th of 24 on Hilton spend. And so if you have that credit card, which is one of the cards I do have, that would allow you to bring yourself up to 22x per dollar spent, between the 12x as a card holder and 10x for the offer. Now, it does not apply to prepaid rates such as advanced purchases, save now and pay, and non-refundable rates. And it also does not apply to Hilton Grand Vacation locations. But it looks like outside of that particular brand, everything else would be on the table to utilize. So if you've got some summer activity and have that card, and are considering different hotels, this may be something that for you to look at to see if there may be a Hilton in the area, because 22x per point is a really good opportunity, but the cap is up to 25,000 points. The second item for this is the Chase co-branded credit cards, and we've seen this on pretty much on a quarterly basis now for all of the numerous co-branded cards for Chase. You can go to a website to be able to punch in the last four digits of your credit card, put in your last name and your zip code, and be able to see if you are one of the people that got the quarterly spending offer. And a lot of them are 5x or 7x or maybe even more on gas and groceries and restaurants up to $1,000 spend. I can honestly say that I had one, two, three co-branded credit cards, and none of them worked for me. But I've never been able to get one of those points. So hopefully, you all have been able to achieve that in the past before. And hopefully, if you try it, you'll be able to do that again. I'll make sure to put a link in the description at the end of this live stream for you to be able to easily click on it and see if you may be able to qualify for any of those targeted offers. So topic 5, I tried to look into Reddit to see about just some different topics for us to talk about, and I really am always interested in the sharing that goes on Reddit on different topics. And so for this one, this person said, I have $6,000 to throw at 16,500 of credit card debt, and what is the smartest way for them to deal with it? And so what I have here is the situation that the person shows. They are showing that they have 5 credit cards. They've got a Bank of America credit card at $1,478 at 25.24% interest. They have a Chase Freedom Flex that they've locked at $2,362 at nearly 29% interest. Then they have their Chase Amazon, which was the first card that they've got, but it's now locked with a balance of $8,444 at 24.49%. City, he has I say he, but I'm not sure if it's a he or she, has one active for emergencies, and according to them, it happened. So they have $2,664 at 28.99% interest. And lastly, they have a Discover card, which is locked. They negotiated a lower interest rate until March 25th of 25 with a $1,540 at 16.99%. Now, from that person, they say they currently do not use any of the credit cards. They're going to reevaluate their credit card situation upon paying off all of the credit cards, and they intend to close one or two of the accounts and focus on their credit score. So the question becomes, if you've got this $6,000 to put towards your credit card debt, what would be the way that you would try to handle this? And my opinion, and I'll be curious of what you all's thoughts are, is if you've only got one active card for emergencies, I'm probably addressing that one first. So I'm probably looking at the Citi credit card at $2,664. Now, unfortunately, we don't have what the credit limits are on these, so we don't know if they've tapped out all their utilization or where they stand. So we won't be able to factor that in. But I would probably be looking at the Citi credit card to make sure that I at least have one credit card that is working. And then my suggestion would probably be looking at, now you can obviously look at the avalanche method or the snowball method. And I'm sure most people are aware of what those are. And the snowball method is basically where you try to knock off the smallest credit cards and let that continue to be a snowball effect to get to the bigger ones. While the avalanche aspect is to focus on the biggest with the biggest interest rates and handle those first. But it's really a personal mentality of what is going to, and each person's going to be a bit different. Are you going to feel better seeing smaller things go away? Or are you the type of person that wants to see the biggest things fall first? But since we don't know his or her situation, like I said, I'm probably dealing with Citi first, and then I'm going to look at knocking off or significantly bringing down the Chase Freedom Flex, as well as the Chase Amazon. and do that. But I'm going to probably get city out of the way and then probably go with taking out the flex and then put some on the other credit cards. But that's just kind of my thought. I'm curious if you all have thoughts on how you would deal with such a thing. Obviously, it's not something you'd want to see on this, but unfortunately, these situations do happen. So I don't know if you all have any thoughts of how you all would take $6,000 to try to address this $16,500 debt. So if you do, feel free to put in the comments, and we definitely can get back to speaking to it. The next item is the Hyatt Acquires Me and All hotels. And the Me and All hotels are ones, and that is exactly how it's shown. It is shown as not being capitalized. So it's not a mistake on my part. And I do got John's. Let me go ahead and take a look at John's. Pay off the city, pay off the Chase Freedom Flex, and throw the rest of the BOA card. And that would make sense. And I think the interesting thing about the BOA card is the fact that it's one that's already closed, and but we don't necessarily know the specifics of it. So it definitely would make sense to me, to as that being a very good option as well. Um, so as far as Hyatt acquiring Me and All hotels, Hyatt had already partners with Lindner hotels, which they expanded the Hyatt footprint in Europe and especially in Germany. Me and All Hotels is the modern lifestyle version home brand of Lindner. Um, they have locations in Dusseldorf, Dorf, Oberkassel, I think is how it's pronounced, Hanover, Kiel, Mainz, and Ulm. They have additional locations coming in Berlin and Leipzig, and then they are also talking about additional case locations in Stuttgart and Lubeck in 2026. So these hotels are already part of Hyatt under the JDV by Hyatt brand, but they're going to end up having their own brand, probably still stay as the Me and All hotels. They've got a lot of plans to be able to expand throughout not just Germany but Europe with that model. And it's obviously a weakness for Hyatt as far as from a European standpoint. We didn't get any of the specifics as far as what the purchase price of the hotel system was, but it's definitely something that we are seeing that Hyatt is continuing to try to expand that footprint and not have such a small number of hotels that it manages. But we'll have to kind of see how that one goes. I've not had the pleasure of being in Germany. Don't know a lot about the hotel, but if any of you all have experienced it, definitely let us know in the comments what your experiences were with it. But wanted to bring that information to you on that. Then, unfortunately, as I put down here, is the last Delta sweet spot with Virgin gone. So, obviously, most of us know that Virgin and Delta have had a long relationship, but it's definitely not been without its devaluations. One of the last sweet spots that I was really looking at, and one that I was hoping to be able to take advantage of sooner than later, was the ability to fly from the US to Europe in business class, normally Delta One, for 50,000 points Delta miles and $5.60 for taxes and fees each way. Now, this value has normally been the same regardless of where you flew out of in the United States. Um, Frequent Miler I saw reported it, but there was another blog had talked about it. But I'm giving credit to them because that's where I kind of saw it. So Frequent Miler ended up finding these incredible results. So now we have a standard and a peak price. So from East Coast standard, you're looking at 47,500 miles. So you're getting a slight discount at $5.60 still for taxes and fees. But we see the West standard has moved up to 67,500. So we lose a little bit there. But the cratering is where it gets to peak. When you're flying from the East Coast, it's now going to be 57,500 points at a 15% increase. And then West Coast peak is 77,500, which represents 35%. But the worst part is that the taxes and fees now exceed $1,000 on both peak for business. That is startling and seemed to come up all of a sudden. So obviously, when we talk about devaluations with miles, there's different ways to address it. You get certain transfer bonuses to be able to help mitigate that situation. We save a little bit more, we move some points around, but there's no way to mitigate taxes and fees, and especially when you go from $5.60 to $1,000. Um, I guess the only thing that with it is that finding that sweet spot for that business trip before was not the easiest to be able to pull off. Now it almost kind of makes it not even worth it. Now, the change to the taxes and fees did not apply to the economy. So the economy does still remain at 30,000 miles at $5.60. So something to keep in mind if that was something you were looking forward to. I was hoping that I might be able to do something like that within the next year, but that seems to have now be off the table. So definitely see what you might be able to find for it. But unfortunately, that is what I ended up seeing. And want to make sure to say hi to Matt. Thanks for stopping through, sir. Really appreciate you dropping by. So that is what we've got with that Delta unfortunate sweet spot that looks like it's gone away. The next item is staying in Dubai for free. Now, I had talked about in a previous live stream about the fact that there was different things that Emirates was looking at as far as people being able to stay over in Dubai, and was talking about putting them up in a hotel for and encouraging them to stay and spend there. We didn't necessarily know the hotel that they were talking about at that time, but we now at least have the first part of this now. So Emirates is offering a free stay at the JW Marriott Marquis Hotel Dubai to anyone traveling to or through Dubai from July 4th through September 15th. If you are flying in economy or premium economy, you're entitled to one night there at that hotel as a part of your trip, either going or coming. And then if you're in business or first class, you're entitled to two nights. Now, once you book that through Emirates, you will get the option to redeem that free stay on the outbound or the inbound leg of your trip. Now, JW Marriott is a five-star hotel and is an excellent incentive for people to stay over and enjoy Dubai for a bit. Now, the downside for this period is that, and unless you love the heat, because the temperatures there during that period will easily be in the 100s. Now, I know people talk about there's a difference between a dry heat and not a dry heat. There may be a difference, but 100 to me is still 100 and it's hot. But if you are for that and you might have a trip there, this would be a nice thing to be able to potentially add on. And then as well as you can be sure to get the My Emirates Pass, which is a discount pass for you to be able to use while you're there, where some of the more popular attractions can be 20 to 30% off. I will put a link for the My Emirates Pass website in the description at the end of the show, just so that you have the ability to be able to look at that as well, if Dubai is on your list of travel. Now we get to the different awards that we got going on. We obviously have Air France that does their monthly promo rewards for flying to Europe and within Europe. These can save you a lot of times between 25 to 50% on award tickets. And the monthly promo typically includes intra-Europe flights and then flights from Canada and the East Coast of the United States. Now, for this one, you must book between July 1st and July 31st, and your travel must be completed by December 31st of this year. when I look at the list of the potential travels, start with the long haul departures from North America. There are 15 of them. All of them are going to be 25% off in for economy to Europe. You can be able to fly Air France from Dallas Fort Worth, Denver, or Raleigh Durham to Europe locations. You could fly KLM from Atlanta or Montreal to Europe. And then you have one premium economy option of flying from Ottawa, Canada to Europe with that 25% discount. And those make up the 15 long haul routes from North America. Now, if you're looking at long haul international departures, these are also at 25% off of the following items. So you can fly Air France Economy from Fort de France, and that's in Martinique, and Santiago de Chile to Europe. You could also fly KLM Economy from Bangalore, India, Beijing, Hong Kong to Europe. And then if you were looking at premium economy, there are international flights that are from Abidjan, I'm probably not pronouncing that right, from the Ivory Coast, Dubai, and Osaka to Europe. So we don't see, this is not necessarily the best numbers that we've seen with this promo award as far as the number of long haul flights, especially from the United States to Europe, in that we are only going to be at 25%, which is normally the floor under this promo. So it's not the best month we've ever seen, but if you were already looking at potentially going there, and if this fits within your potential travel plans, it still could be a good discount for you to be able to look at. So wanted to be able to get that information to you. And then if you're looking at the short or medium haul, and these would be the ones that are going to be essentially intra-Europe to look at. 25% off if you're flying Air France economy flights between Paris, Fugari, Hanover, which is in Germany, Helsinki, Finland, Marseille, Milan, Rabat, I think that's how it's pronounced, which is in Morocco, Toulouse, and Venice would be the locations that you could be able to fly between at 25% off in economy. And then if you're looking at other additional short and more medium haul, you can look at KLM economy flights between Amsterdam in the Netherlands, Copenhagen, Denmark, Geneva, Glasgow, Linköping, Sweden, and London. Now, the great thing about these when you're doing with these awards is the fact that KLM and Air France pretty much is with almost every transfer partner. Amex, Bilt, Capital One, Chase, and Citi. So you're going to be able to pool your miles together for potentially something like this. But keep in mind that the taxes and fees for these are going to be typically $200 to $300 each way. So make sure you factor that in as far as if it's a possibility that the numbers work out. But you definitely have to factor that taxes and fees that come with that. And then we obviously have the Lufthansa Miles and More. Now, this one is much better this month than we've seen in a long time of what's available. Now, as a reminder, these are monthly bargains that they set up, and we have 687 offers on flights from the US to the locations around Europe, which is an outrageous number to be able to look at. Now, you must book by July 31st. Your flights they're much more constricted than KLM Air France. So your flights have to be between October 15th and November 30th. Now, because Lufthansa as a group has numerous airlines that fall under them, so you may be in some of these cases flying Austrian, Brussels, Eurowings, Discover, Lot Polish, Lufthansa, and Swiss. But I want to make sure to kind of give you some of these to be able to look at. Now, unfortunately for business class, there's only one deal. There was only one deal last month under business class, but that is significantly different this month. So for some examples of 55,000 mile round trip flights, you're looking at Detroit to numerous locations in Europe flying on Lufthansa. You've got Boston or Chicago that are flying to 81 different airports on Swiss. And then lastly, you've got New York City, JFK to 6 Austrian cities on Swiss. So that is a lot of business class options that we have. And like I said, more than I've seen in a long time. When it comes to premium economy, there's 287 deals that are available flying from Boston, Detroit, Los Angeles, Minneapolis, or JFK, New York, on flying Austrian, Brussels, Lufthansa, or Swiss. Now, those ones are going to be 40,000 miles round trip in premium economy. Now, LAX is actually showing 230 different airports that it's flying to on either flying Lufthansa or Swiss. So a lot of different options that would be there to be able to look at for that. Um, and then on the economy class options, there's 237 deals at 30,000 miles round trip. Then your options are flying out of Atlanta, Austin, Boston, Charlotte, Chicago, Detroit, Houston, Los Angeles, Minneapolis, JFK for New York, Newark, and San Diego. So those for all of those, then you're kind of looking at out of those options, you've got basically 113 different airports flying out of Charlotte, flying on Lufthansa, with 139 different airports out of Houston flying Lufthansa. Then you've got one from JFK flying on Brussels Airlines to Brussels, Chicago to 6 different cities in Austria, flying on Austrian Airlines. So a lot of different options. I'll make sure to put a link for this page so that you can be able to look for yourself of what options there are. Is there anything that might work for you? Now, the unfortunate part that we always discuss about Lufthansa is the fact that while these are some outstanding round trip points, and as long as it can fit within your time frame of when this trip has to occur, Lufthansa miles are very hard to get. They're not a transfer partner of the normal credit card option, the credit issuer options of Amex, Chase, and Citi. So there is a credit card that Barclays has, which is the Miles and More World Elite card, that still comes with a 50,000 mile welcome bonus, which might be an option, especially if you think you are going to be invested in these potential flights on a basis. The credit card may be an option to consider if that's the case. The other part you have to factor in is that the taxes and fees are going to be high. We don't get those bargain ones that we've seen with other transfer partners that we may use. So you'll end up having to look at each individual potential flight on its own of what may work for you and what's best. So definitely, if there's interest, take a look at the list that I'll make sure I'll put in the description for that link for you to look at, and so that you can do the math to see if something is there that might work for you. And then that second Reddit topic that I wanted to kind of broach and touch with you all about. This is a person asking about traveling or saving. And I thought this was a very interesting one because it's clearly a person that isn't involved in points and miles, but I'm sure it's a quandary that a lot of us have had to try to figure out, regardless of what age we're at. And so for this person is working 3 jobs. Their credit is improved, but it is up to date but they are up to date on their bills. Person is in their late 20s. They've never taken a trip or left the state that they've lived in all of their life, which we don't know what state that is. And they're looking to complete their master's degree. They've saved $3,000 to $4,000. They would like to at least take a 4 to 5 day trip to Colorado. Once again, we don't know how far that is. They have no accrued vacation on their full-time job yet. They've only been full-time at the job since April, so they don't get any paid time off until October. This person said that person that put this up said they're just eager to get out and finally live now that they know that they've got a big boy job. So the question that they're asking is, should they go ahead and treat themselves to a travel, or do they continue saving? And I thought this was interesting because of the age of being in the late 20s, because although I'm pretty far removed from that age, that would be normally the time when you were going through college and they got their bachelor's degree. That maybe somewhere during the high school or the college time, they would have hopefully had the opportunity to kind of be a little fancy free, to take a trip or something. But unfortunately, this person did not. Um, I don't, my opinion, I'm curious what you all's thoughts are going to be. Um, I don't think you can touch that $3,000 to $4,000. If you're working three jobs and you still want to get that master's degree, you've got to hold on to that money tight, especially the way the economy is. And I would recommend to the person to um, identify, if they're not into credit cards, just to look for one credit card that in which the welcome bonus can fit his or her travel, I'm sorry, their expenditures, to be able to get a welcome bonus. And then maybe by October, that's 3 to 4, yeah, 3, 4 months or more to be able to get that bonus. And then maybe parlay that off of Thanksgiving for an extended weekend where you don't need the personal time off. Excuse me, because most people will have Thursday through Sunday, and then maybe he or she can take that trip to Colorado, at least subsidized, significantly subsidized, with points and miles. Excuse me. So I think that the person can be able to take that trip. I mean, three jobs when you're in your late 20s, that's a lot of grinding. And I think that it makes perfect sense for the person to seek to be able to take a trip to enjoy themselves and kind of take a break, which is perfectly understandable. So, curious of what you all's thoughts of what you would recommend to that person in this situation. Um, it's definitely something that um, I think a lot of people have seen other family members, if you haven't gone through it yourself, um, where where you're going to get worn out. I mean, the three jobs is significant. So curious of what you all's thoughts are on this. Um, and make sure to put it in the comment section, and let's have a discussion on what people should look at doing and what your kind of thoughts are, especially so many people in the points and miles game of what you might be able to reflect on when you first started, to be able to take a trip like this. And that's the whole beauty of points and miles, is that something that is so something that could be so simple as just taking a trip to Colorado for 4 to 5 days could make this person's year and allow that person to be able to grind on through things. I see that. Appreciate John. If $3,000 they save, I agree. Yeah, I keep saying he because I don't know for sure, but I think it's a grind. I mean that's somebody that's grinding, and I can definitely see what they want to be able to do. But I think that might be somewhat reasonable to be able to shoot for November in Colorado, and be able to take a short trip and not have to worry about the paid time off. So, but that's kind of what I wanted to kind of throw out to you all, get you all's thoughts on, and we want to make sure if anybody's got any questions or thoughts or anything to touch on. A lot of things going on in July, a lot of different offers, a lot of different opportunities for us to be able to look at as we go into the holiday weekend. But I wanted to get that information to you and jump this a little early. But want to thank each and every person that stopped through. Thank you all so much for everything. And once again, make sure to stay safe, be careful. There's a lot of crazy people out there. And thank you all so much for everything, and have a great weekend.